Hello, everybody. This is Nicole Whitlock with the eCom Sellers Print on Demand Challenge. This is day 58, 2 more days. And yeah, 52 more days. So, what we're going to cover today is we're going to start some of the recap today because I want to make sure that we don't miss anything important. So if you are, starting from the beginning, if you started from the beginning of the Print on Demand Challenge, or you're restarting the Print on Demand Challenge, this is just kind of a recap of the highlights or the important things that you need to keep in mind as you go on your Print on Demand journey. One of the things that I emphasized, we're going to have a schedule day because I think the schedule is like the biggest thing of this. The rest of it is par for the course. If you've been selling on Amazon, or you've been selling on eBay, you've been selling on Walmart, you've been selling on Facebook Marketplace, even if you back in the day were on Craigslist. Selling, and there is work in that as well. Everything from sourcing your products to figuring out your titles to making sure you have enough of the inventory, deciding if you're going to ship it to your customer yourself or ship it off to a fulfillment center for them to fulfill it. All of that was work. It is the model, I will say, is simple. I'm not going to say that the work is easy. The same thing for print on demand. The model is simple. I'm not going to say that the work is easy. The work is work. And so if you're willing to put in the work, you can have a successful business. There are lots of people that are successful on many of the e-commerce platforms, including Etsy. And so our goal, our objective is to get our piece of the pie as we go on this print on demand challenge. The first part of the journey, niche. That was the very first part of the journey. What is the thing that you know the most about, and what's the thing that you're passionate about? Because most people, when they're trying to figure out what to sell, they can't figure it out. They don't know where to start. They're like, what do I sell? That's the same thing if you're selling physical products online. The first thing that I always get as a trainer, what do I sell? What do I sell? What do I sell? And so, as a selling physical products, you can always get a leads list and that'll help you. But when you're doing print on demand, it's up to you to figure out what you want to sell. Now, there's many different ways in which you can figure that out, but the easiest that I believe is to start with something that you know. Write down 3 characteristics about yourself or 5 that are true. So 3 characteristics or 5 about yourself that you know to be fact. I'm going to start with me. And what I started with, well, I don't know what I said at the time, at the beginning of this challenge, but right now I'm a Black female. I'm over 50. I have gray hair. I have 2 special needs kids. And I'm overweight. Okay, so that's 5 things that are facts about me that I know. So there are things that I know about Black women. That's a fact. There are things that I know about having gray hair. I know I'm not the only one, but there's some information that I know about those things. So that's a fact. There's things that I know about the journey of having special needs kids. That is definitely a fact. There are things that I know about being overweight. That's a fact. And then there's things that I know about being over 50. Okay. I'm not saying I'm an expert in any of those things, but there are areas of opportunity in which I can serve or create from. So with that being said, starting with that as the basis, I think everyone that participated in the challenge figured out what their thing was that they were going to start off with, what their niche was. If I were to focus on each one of these, I could go after one of them that I've already started was not the grandma. I don't know if you guys know the running joke, but I was pregnant with Tony, and then they're back to back. They're not twins, but most people say they're really close in age. I'm like, yeah, they were. Might as well be twins. So I did not dye my hair when I was pregnant with Tony. And so when I got pregnant and I was still breastfeeding when I was got pregnant with Nicholas. So my hair, my roots were growing out and I had gray hair, and then it continued to be even more gray. So by the time I was about, I want to say 7 or 8 months pregnant, I was at a CVS, and there was a lady who saw me from the back, not from the front. And she saw that I had a little kid in my little basket seat. That was Tony. Tony was not walking at that point. Tony was probably about, nope. Nope. Wait a minute. How many months was he? He was 10 months, maybe. And then I had, and then she could see my gray hair. And so when I turned, she was like, "Oh, isn't it great to be with hang out with our grandbabies? They're so sweet." And she walks up to Tony and she's like, "How are you, buddy?" Or something to that effect. And she turns and looks at me and she's terribly confused, like terribly, terribly confused, because I have gray hair and I have a stomach that clearly indicates that I'm pregnant with a baby. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, I have a cancerous growth in my stomach, but I'm pretty sure that I look like I was pregnant. And then I have another little kid with me and she's like in her mind, I could see the wheel spinning. Well, as I've gone on this journey of being the mom that has the gray hair and going to the parent teacher conferences, one of the things that was always resonating is like every time there was a more mature lady or a woman that might be perceived as the grandma would come into the room and she would see me and she'd be like, "Oh, isn't it great to see our grandbabies and see them," whatever it was, to parent teacher night, going to go see their little skits at school, them singing at school, whatever the things were. They would always say something to me because, or, when it was a homeroom parent day, they would gravitate towards me because I had the gray hair and they would assume that I was the grandma. And I would always have to say, I'm the mom. I can remember the second time Nicholas had a seizure and I had to go to the ER with Nicholas. And I was given information about Nicholas and they would be like, the doctor called back and said, "No, Nicholas's grandma is here." And I would be like, "I am his mom. I am not his grandma." So I bought a domain called Not the Grandma. So there is something about that journey that I have 9,000 stories and I have all kinds of stuff, quotes that I could put on shirts and hats and whatever about not being the grandma. So I bought notthegrandma.com. I started, I started at some point posting about it, but I never did take it any further. So now I'm going to pick up the gauntlet and I'm going to run with that. That is something that I understand. And I'm confident that there are other women who waited later to have children, who also might have gray hair, who may also be mistaken as the grandma that might appreciate some of the humor that comes with that. So there's plenty of material that comes from that personal experience. So that is something that I know. That's the reason why we start with that as the base. Now you could start with something you don't know. You could start with, you could randomly choose a niche where you've gone out there and do product research using product research tools. And in that research, it yields the fact that this particular category and this niche does not have a lot of competition. So you should create material for that. And that's fine. There are some people that are very successful and make a lot of money doing that. But I think there is a level of familiarity when you're the person that's creating it and people get a sense for this person can truly identify with what I'm dealing with. Versus someone that just went out into the universe, did some research, put some stuff together and threw it out there to see if it would stick. There's a difference. Sometimes that stuff works perfectly, but when you have a knowledge about it or a passion about it or an interest in it, that thing can gain traction because of the fact that there's probably a whole, backstory that's associated with it. So clearly there's one with Not the Grandma. There's also the joke about the 2 minutes from the toilet. I also own that domain. Not that it has anything to go with using the bathroom. It has everything to do with being a mom of little kids and not having any me time and literally having to go to the restroom just so you can get some quiet, some peace and quiet with no noise and nobody saying mom. But that never worked out because Nicholas would always lay on the ground and poke his head or his eyeball up under the crack of the bathroom door and would go, "Mom, mom, 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 mom." So again, people who have kids, who have little kids, that feel like they can never get a moment's peace, can never get any silence or solitude, would appreciate that. So again, that is another, there's a whole story behind the 2 minutes from the toilet. And only women who have kids, little kids, who can't get peace would appreciate potentially some of the humor that comes from that. So if it's something that you know about or something that you're passionate about, something that you love, something that you're interested in, something that you are extremely familiar with, then that can potentially be the foundation for building something long-term. So Everyone that participated at the beginning of this journey came up with some awesome stuff, things that they know or knew or familiar with, that they had an interest in, and they've done some level of research, not because they used a tool to go do the research. Now, I'm not knocking tools. There's a lot of great tools out there that will help you find niches that have holes that need to be filled. And you can definitely do that. But I do encourage you to find something that you're interested in, because if it's something that you're interested in, there will be no end to the material that can be yielded from that interest. There'll be no end to it. Like, you could go on and on and on and on and on. Ideas will continue to come to you from different perspectives of that same niche. So I go back to when we were talking at the beginning of this journey, the idea of scriptures. Scriptures, if you are a person who loves the Lord, loves scriptures, loves reading the Bible, loves having the opportunity to spend time with the Lord, meditating, journaling about it, then building a journal makes a lot of sense. Or building a devotional makes a lot of sense. And there's so many people and such a big audience that could be served by that. But again, the scripture is where your passion is. So building a solution around scriptures is a good idea. So if I go back to any of these, starting with what is the one thing, downloadable printables, that we could produce from any of this? Well, I mentioned 5 things about me. And so, one of the things that I talked about was the whole not the grandma, which is still funny to me. But I could produce informational cards for people that are deciding that they're no longer going to dye their hair. And, some information cards, or maybe some information articles around caring for your hair. As people are moving from dyeing their hair to not dyeing their hair, some of them are journaling that. And so I could put together some daily journal sheets or monthly journal sheets or whatever about how many inches have grown and when do you plan on cutting it. Some people want to cut it after they've grown about 4 inches, and others decide something else. So again, all kinds of tip sheets, and this could all be downloadable around gray hair. Same thing with scriptures. You could put together scripture quotes for around love, around marriage, around peace, around joy, around forgiveness. There's so many opportunities when it comes to scriptures and creating something that's downloadable or printable. The other thing that I mentioned is that you need to go and look and see what's out there in that space right now. If you're thinking of something that's brand new that doesn't exist, then you have to be prepared for it to catch fire on its own. And that catching fire journey could take a little bit of time. It could take 6 months. It could take a year, 2 years. And if you stick with it with persistence, it can potentially take off on its own or create its own space. And then you will, copying is the greatest form of flattery. I can't remember the exact quote. Somebody knows the exact quote. I don't remember it right now. But the fact that someone takes your idea and maybe they were interested in that, but there was nothing that existed before, and now they're going to create their own version of it. So again, others coming into that space and doing, more with what you started, or maybe doing a better job marketing. Can't be mad at them. Don't be a hater. So, you could be a hater, but I don't know that it will do you any good. So going through that process of creating something that's printable and downloadable and being consistent about it. So stage 1 of our journey was identifying that particular idea, concept, thought, niche that you wanted to pursue, and then creating downloadable or printable products around that idea, whatever that is. The great thing about printable products is when you upload them to, when you create the list and you upload them to Etsy, you don't have to do anything once a person buys it. It becomes a listing that you create that you no longer have to touch unless you want to. Okay? You no longer have to touch it unless you want to. The customer, when they buy it, they will automatically receive the product, and so it's hands-free for you. The other thing is looking beyond, which is a whole process that I'm working with my son on, panning out from that one niche and seeing what it could look like long term later on. So if I go back to the gray hair situation, I literally could have a whole bunch of jokes that I can put into the book. Yeah. I mean, I could have a bunch of stuff that I could put into the book. I could talk about care. I could talk about what you need to do to grow it out and how long do you grow it out. If, you know, if you colored it, if you decide you're going to cut, or whether or not you're going to do a soft color transition so that that way the gray comes in faster, you know, what kind of makeup tones might look better on your face if you have gray hair, all these different things, what kind of shampoo, what kind of, you know, brushes and combs and hair ties, and how do you, you know, different types of things to control the hair because it's a little more coarse, all of these things, informational sheets, and taking those informational sheets over time, long-term bigger picture, and converting that into a magazine, a book on, or an ebook on caring for gray hair, making the transition and caring for gray hair, because that's something I know about. Same thing for you if you are, you know, working on scriptures. If you have a passion for scriptures around love or around forgiveness or around hope or around joy or whatever it happens to be, then again, you could build a whole book on scriptures around joy or scriptures around love or whatever. Or if there is a journaling opportunity, and there always is, because people journal about some of the most interesting things and sometimes the most unexpected things. If there's a journaling opportunity, then going ahead and literally taking those pieces of material that you've created, that you've uploaded to different listings, because you're creating multiple listings. It's not just going to be one listing. You're going to create a brand new listing for each new product that you create. Okay. So if you created 20 products, or you created 30 products, that's 30 listings. And so you're going to take those 30 listings and convert that into something amazing, convert it into a book, panning out and thinking about what this could look like long term. We'll zoom back in, but we're going to pan out and just look at the bigger picture of where this could go just by starting with the print on demand, the printable or the downloadable. Because most people don't think there's any value in investing time in printables or downloadables sometimes, because they just don't see that there's like, oh, okay, well, there's not a big enough audience for that. There may not be, but there might be a bigger audience for the thing that's on the other side of it. So you can start off slow, build the pieces one Lego piece at a time, so that at the end of the day, you get the big giant. If you're thinking of the concept of Legos, you have the big giant Millennium Falcon. But you got to start with one Lego piece to even get to that place where now it looks like a Millennium Falcon, or puzzle pieces where now it looks like a puzzle of, I don't know, a lion, whatever it happens to be. So you're starting small to get to that bigger place. So on your journey, I'm hoping that as you think about, you have to do some writing first and some thinking and some planning. What is the thing, the niche that you're going to focus on? Once you have determined what the niche is, and you can write down all, 5 of them, and you can decide that you're going to work on all 5 if that's what you want to do, if it makes logical sense, or focus on one and really focus on one hardcore for about 3 months or 6 months and see what it yields you. Okay? Make the transition to something else. In your journey of this first, your goal, your objective, in addition to figuring out your niche that you're going to start with, because that's the first part of that goal, is number 2, to get familiar with the tool that you're going to use to create this product. That could be Canva. If you're doing documents, you can definitely do those in Google Sheets. You don't even need Canva for that. You could use Google Sheets 100% for that. But from a formatting standpoint, if you want something that's going to transition to something else, then Canva makes sense to produce your product in. But you could do some of it in Google Sheets. You could do some of it in Google Slides. All of that's entirely possible. Then the next thing is getting familiar and getting more comfortable with creating listings on Etsy. So those are your 3 goals for stage 1. Identifying a niche, getting comfortable with the tool that you're going to use to create your product in, your design, your whatever, your quote, your lines and dots, and getting familiar with Etsy and creating listings. and then building some consistency around number 2 and number 3. Okay. So after you kind of did stage 1, then we transitioned to stage 2. Stage 2 is all about taking that print on demand design and expanding that out to, that printable or downloadable design, and expanding that into something a little bit more, making it a little more fancy, putting some potential animations in it, maybe creating, a video for it, or something that's going to give it a little more splash and a little more pizzazz, while learning how to create your listing cover or improve your listing cover. Because we can start with the basic listing cover in stage 1, but in stage 2, we can get more comfortable, more familiar with the tools that we're using and create a better listing cover, a combo cover photo for your listing, or a combo photo for your listing, or get more familiar with the other tools that are complementary tools around it. We looked at a lot of different tools, a lot of different tool options, from everything from photos to other platforms that offer you images. So some of them we looked at was like Creative Markets and Creative Fabrica, and there's a few others that you can buy some of the designs from them and save yourself some time. We looked at changing the font on existing stuff. If the stuff that you're going to be creating is all words, then you can change the font style. We also took a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the copyright stuff for Canva. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But the point is getting more and more comfortable that next stage with the tools and using some of the features of the tools so you can make your listing better and you can improve the quality of your product. Thereby, of course, when people buy things, they're scrolling and they're looking for a specific thing. Your goal was to make your listing eye-popping so that they would stop scrolling, stop the scroll. That's the goal. It's like driving by something. There's a reason why they have that little floaty guy where the air is blowing up to him and he's waving his arms and his head, because they are looking to get you to pay attention and then look over here. Or the person that's flipping the sign. Your goal is to get people to notice your listing and to get them to stop or to pull over or to pay attention or to remember it and come back to it. So that's why we learn about some additional features and some enhancements. In addition to that, we started the journey of looking at some of the platforms. So we talked about a bunch of the platforms. I'm working with the VA to give you all a list that will be uploaded eventually to your back office. But a list of the different platforms that are available to be able to upload your design on. So now that you've learned a little bit more on enhancements, in stage 3, we're moving into taking that particular product. So we can go with the scriptures, we can go with the crazy quotes about the woman who has the gray hair, who's not the grandma, and or crazy images or crazy sayings, or crazy, illustrations. Because I think that will be a really good illustration of a woman with gray hair who's very pregnant, who has a toddler in her cart, and then someone else says something. There's a thought bubble or a bubble over at the side. She's saying, somebody else is saying something, and then there's the thought bubble about the grandma above the person saying, "I'm not the grandma." I think that would be a great illustration, and I think it would probably get a lot of play. But in any case, taking all of that and now putting it onto a product. So we looked at several different vendors, a lot of different vendors, and what they offer and what are the options and how do some of their platforms work. We didn't get into the weeds about all of them, but how do some of their platforms work? And we went through the process of kind of looking at some of those providers, and starting with Printful. I chose Printful because initially there's going to be some very similar characteristics about the other platforms. So there'll be some similar characteristics about any of them. Printify. Before we superimpose it onto a product, and you also have the ability to do that directly in Canva, but We went to go do some research. We always start with the research. So we started with the research in stage one. Now that we moved to stage three, we start with the research and we go and see what makes the most logical sense. Where are we seeing products where there's a scripture superimposed on it? Which products are most common for that? Where are we seeing quotes where there's something completely hysterical? Probably a t-shirt more than likely, but where somebody would appreciate the joke, the inside joke behind it. So going to go look for those particular products where you can superimpose your specific design onto it. So again, we looked at, there's all kinds of products that we saw from looking at the list in Printify and also Printful and some of the other platforms. Everything from watches to basketballs to footballs to tennis shoes, to socks to mugs to hats to artwork to tote bags to backpacks to, I mean, we saw so many different options where there's a print on demand opportunity. So figuring out which products you want to superimpose your idea, your product, your words, whatever, onto, and then creating that listing on Etsy. That was the goal. And talking about, different aspects of this. The keyword research, getting better at the keyword research, getting better at the titles, getting better at the tags, giving you some additional options for your images and using those additional tools to have more mock-ups, variation mock-ups, doing research about other people's listings and what are the other complementary products that might be bundle opportunities and putting those together. So we did, I think with stage 3, we did go through bundle opportunities when we talked about multiples of shirts, family shirts, family reunion, shirts for bridesmaids, shirts for groomsmen. And it doesn't always have to be shirts, but just multiples of the same thing where there is a design that's superimposed onto something, whatever that happens to be. So we went through a lot of the different things that a lot of different options when it comes to taking that amazing design that you have now built out and putting it on different things, changing it up. So maybe you have, the white lettering with the black t-shirt, or you have the black lettering with the pink t-shirt, and having variations and creating variations of your product or creating variations of your design, making sure that you're mindful of any of the copyright stuff. But that is all part of the planning process. So we're gradually building up to the next stage, which is stage 4 of this process. And being able to take stage 4 and take all of the stuff you did in stage 1 and convert it into a book or a low content book or something else. It could be a planner. It could be a calendar. You can decide that you want to do a calendar scripture. I mean, a calendar of scriptures. I could do a calendar of crazy quotes about not being a grandma. I could also do a calendar of crazy quotes about, 2 minutes from the toilet. You could do whatever you want to. Doesn't really matter. You can create that product and put it out into the universe, starting with the thing that you started with at the beginning, whatever it was you created at the beginning. So as part of this journey, it's about thinking, not limiting yourself on what you could create from a print on demand standpoint, but getting familiar and comfortable with what is possible, writing those things out, doing the necessary research on each one of them. But don't overwhelm yourself, because you could literally overwhelm yourself with this. Thinking those things out, writing them out, and then tackling just one of your ideas, just one of your ideas, and expanding that gradually over time. On top of that, getting consistent, because print on demand, much like any other method of e-commerce, requires consistency. That's where the money comes in. The only way you're going to find the thing that's going to take off like a bottle rocket is you have to create a lot of different variations or different nuances about the same thing. And so if you don't do the work and you only create 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 or 11, and that's all you've done, and then you don't see any more traction, that's the same thing like going to Walmart and only seeing 11 products in the store. People don't come to Walmart because they see 11 products in the store. That's not what they do. If you're intending to open a store where there's really only 11 products and that's all you're going to do, then that is a definite niche down niche, like the candles that we looked at. We looked at the soy candles, but they still had them in different scents. So even though it was candles, they had them in different sizes, they had them in different colors, and they also had them in different scents. So they had a lot of variations within the candle idea and the candle concept. The same thing goes for you. You can go to a candle store and they're going to have a bunch of varieties available to you. They don't just have 11. So my point is that consistency on this journey is the key to you being successful in print on demand. Creating listings on a regular basis, doing the research on a regular basis, and getting organized around that. So, in getting organized about our awesome journey, I did have some ideas. That was the book. So we're not going to go back to the book. I'm going to go with my mock schedule. Okay. So I created a fake schedule, a couple of things to think about. And I'm going to start with this one. I think it's this one. Yeah. Okay. So, oh, well, there's names on here. Those are irrelevant. We're just going to do with this. All right. So we stick with scripture. I keep saying, okay, we got to do some research. Definitely got to do some research. There's always going to be research that needs to be done. And my suggestion is that there's a couple of things, and you getting organized and you being consistent. One is that I encourage you to take 2 days each month to plan out what you're going to do for the month. This will allow you to be able to scale faster or to potentially move faster if you're consistent. Now, if you're not consistent yet, the first thing I want you to do is just to exercise the habit of being consistent. I don't care if what you launch is bad or ugly. Launch it ugly, create it ugly. The first muscle you have to build beyond any other muscle is the muscle of consistency. Once you build the muscle of consistency, then you can work on perfecting your design and perfecting your product and perfecting your listing and perfecting everything else. Initially, you're probably going to create it ugly, and it's okay. You're going to launch it. It's going to be redone later. You're going to launch it ugly. It's okay. It's going to be imperfect, and you're going to take a bunch of imperfect action, because the first muscle you have to build is the muscle of consistency. You got to have some discipline around that. Then as you're building the muscle of consistency, what's going to happen is you're going to accidentally fall into perfection because you're consistently creating something new. You're consistently learning how to use the tool better and use the tool faster. You're getting faster at creating the listings. You're getting better at moving the lines within the Canva tool. You're getting better at building your designs or your quotes or your whatever it is. So you're going to accidentally, it's really intentional, you're going to accidentally get better at what you're doing. But the first muscle you have to build is the habit of consistency. Okay. So I would encourage you to build that muscle first. And once you're consistent for at least 30 days, then start planning. Prior to 30 days, this is just a thing. This is not a real thing for you, because people make time for stuff that they have a plan for and they have a vision for. So even if you have a vision for it, but you just don't have the capacity with your time and your schedule being, your world being as crazy as it is, you're not going to see those windows because you're just surviving. You're reacting to your life. And when you're reacting to your life, you can't make time for anything else because reaction takes all of your time. And what I mean by that is, it is the lack of planning that causes us to live a reactionary life, which means that we have a lot of stresses. And I don't, at some point, we don't want to have to live stresses all the time. We don't. We want to get to a place where we actually have a semi-stress-free life. There's always going to be stress in our life. That's just the nature of living. Okay. Sales divide that's stressed on the sales. Okay. So it's going to happen. But if we don't build the habit of consistency, then we won't find the window in which we can actually work our business for real. There will always be a reason why we can't work our business, and there will never be a reason why we can. And that's what I want you to get past. The excuses that come with reasons why you can't work your business. So build the habit of consistency, finding the windows where you can do the business. Consistently finding the windows, consistently working the business every day. Even if it's for 30 minutes, just work it. Work it, work it, work it. Think of it like, okay, I don't know, exercise. Think of it like, I don't know, weight loss. Think of it like, oh, I got to get control of my finances. I've been following Dave Ramsey, so every day I got to write down what I'm doing with where I'm spending my money. There is something that until you get to that place, and the Dave Ramsey journey. If you don't know who Dave Ramsey is, you can Google him. But he basically tries to help people to regain control of where they're wasting money. And so until you start logging what you're doing, you will have zero awareness of how you're spending your money. That holds true with working your e-commerce business. Until you force yourself to find the pockets every single day, no matter what, come rain, come shine, like the mailman, you will never find the long-term window in which to do your business. You'll never find it. And it'll always be something you're working at randomly, haphazardly, like it's a hobby. And it will never become something that generates money for you. So you have to force yourself every day to find the window. Even if the window is 5 minutes. I worked in my business for 5 minutes. I did it. And you keep doing that every single day, whittling away 5 minutes. I did 5 minutes. I did 5 minutes. I did 5 minutes. And eventually that 5 minutes is going to turn into 10 minutes. And you're going to find 10 minutes. And then you're going to find 20 minutes. And then you're going to find 30 minutes. And then, oh my God, now you have built a schedule because you found 30 minutes. You did two things. You executed the habit of consistency and you found 30 minutes. Now you have something you can do something with. Now you have something that's workable. But until then, it'll be today I got to work in my business for an hour, and then you wait 4 days, and then you get to work in your business for 30 minutes, and then you wait 7 days, and then you get to work in your business for 1 hour, and then you wait 19 days, and you get to work in your business for 2 hours. And that's exactly how it's going to go. So you got to find that 5 minutes every day, no matter what. Pretend like it's, I don't know, brushing your teeth or going to the bathroom. Like, you find time every day to wash your face, or you find time every day to go to the bathroom. You got to find time to do this thing. It's that important to you. Now, if it's not that important to you, don't worry about it. But if it is something that you have a vision, and I believe that God does give us visions, that if it's a vision that you see long term, this thing can go somewhere, you got to make time for it. You got to feed it. Just like your relationship with the Lord, you got to feed it. The fire burns out. If there's not any wood kindling being put on the fire, it goes away. So you have to figure out how to make time for this business so the fire can stay strong and that flame can stay strong. So if it's a battle for you, find the 5 minutes. Okay, just find the 5 minutes and consistently find the 5 minutes for 30 days. In that accidental finding of the 5 minutes, you're going to eventually find, I was able to squeeze in 30 minutes. It wasn't just 5 minutes. There you go. Now you got something to work with. So after you get to a place where you've got the consistency in place, now I want you to work on the next thing, which is game planning. Spend 2 days of the month game planning the next 30 days or the next 28 days. When you do that, after you get the consistency, don't do this before you have the consistency, because all you're going to do is just be writing stuff and planning stuff that will never happen. Okay? So don't do that to yourself. You got to build the consistency first, and then you got something you can work with that can happen. Because what I don't want you to do is to come back 1 year from now and you watch your partner or whoever that you know that you were connected with, and their Etsy store is booming. And you're like, wow, if I had only. How many times have you said that? If I had only focused, if I had only whatever. So we're not going to live a life of regrets. We're going to take the bull by the horns, and we're going to jump in, and we're going to find that 5 minutes. And we're not going to say 12 months from now, 6 months from now, if I had only. Okay. So we got our 5 minutes. That 5 minutes has now expanded out to 30. We really want it to be an hour or 2 hours, but that's okay. We're going to take what we got and we're going to work with what we have, because we're only taking on one of our bubbles, right? In our planning and our research, we're only taking on one of our bubbles. So 2 days, let's do some planning. And the reason why it's 2 days, because if you only got 30 minutes, you need at least an hour or so. If you got more than 30 minutes, or you're blessed to be able to get an hour, or you're blessed to get 2 hours, then you just take one day, because you're not taking the full 8 hours, or 8 hours, 24 hours. You're only taking whatever that window is that you're working in your business. So if that window happens to be 30 minutes, you're going to spend 2 days doing this. If your window happens to be 2 hours, then you can spend 1 day doing this, but you're going to do some planning. You're going to plan for the month. What are the things that I'm going to create? So if I'm going with scriptures and I start with scripture cards, I'm going to create scriptures based off of whatever. So 2 of the days out of the week, maybe it's Sunday and Monday. Well, first I'm going to do my planning. So planning is 2 days all by itself, outside of the other 28 days. Okay. So 2 days by itself. Now, because every month has 30 days in the month except for February. So then now the other 28 days, we're going to do the easy math of 7 days in the week. Easy math. If we're focusing on the scripture cards, I am going to work on love scriptures. So I will spend Sunday and Monday pulling together love-related scriptures. Maybe just compiling them. Maybe hire your kids to do it. Maybe get a VA. Maybe you just use Google, whatever. A bunch of love-related scriptures. And then now, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'm going to go ahead and create scripture cards that are love. And I can sell them in different variations of packs. Maybe on Tuesday, I create a 10-pack. And then Wednesday, I create another 10-pack. Then Thursday, I combine the 2 10-packs and make that into a 20-pack. And then, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then Friday, I had to do the math. Friday, I create maybe another 20-pack. So now on Saturday, I can sell 2 20-packs. So you game plan it so that at the end of the week, you've created X number of listings. Okay. At the end of the week, I got 5 new listings up, no matter what, by working my little 30 minutes or by working my hour or working my 2 hours. And you do the same thing for week 2 and the same thing for week 3, same thing for week 4. So at that point, you're working your business on a consistent basis. And now you will eventually begin to see either exponential progress or exponential growth. One of the two is going to happen. Your avatar may find you because, again, on that Sunday and Monday, not only am I doing research on scriptures, but I'm also doing research on the listings, the keywords, the titles. I'm doing research on all of that. So it makes it much faster and much easier for me to create the listings Tuesday through Saturday, because I can create a listing template and go with that. I can also create a template for my cover photos and use that as well, my cover image. So again, you're streamlining the operations of your business and taking the time that you do have available and working in your business the most efficient way possible. Okay. So let's say we do that for a month. We do that for 2 months with the intent, long-term, bigger picture, that these scripture cards are going to go into something else. Okay. I'm not just building these for the sake of building these, and knowing that of the scripture cards, because if I create 5 a week at the end of a week, if I create 5 a week and at the end of a month, I have 20. At the end of 2 months, I have 40. And at the end of 3 months, I have 60 listings up. And that's fine. I got 60 listings up. I celebrate my 60 listings. I also have potentially 60 pages to go into my book long-term that I'm going to be building, or content for 60 pages for the book that I'm going to be creating. or ideas or concepts for maybe 3 books that I'm going to be creating, or 4 books, whatever it happens to be. All right. So that's the goal. And if you're going to focus on downloadables and printables, maybe you focus on them for a couple of months until you, now that you have consistency, you can improve what's happening on Etsy with your listing creation. And you can also improve your skills with Canva. Simultaneously, those things by default will happen. By default, it will automatically happen on its own without you even focusing on it. It will happen. And you will get faster and you will get better and you will use that 30 minutes more efficiently. But at the beginning, you're going to be stumbling through that 30 minutes and it's going to be a hot mess, and that's okay. Grace and mercy goes all over that. It's like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You just spread grace and mercy over that first 30 days. So after we get past the first couple of months, we got our first 30 days. I'm not going to say the first 30 days are a wash, but if you want to say they're a wash, that's fine. So now we're into month 2 and 3 and we're clipping along now. So in month 4 and 5, maybe we focus on products and taking these amazing scriptures and putting them on things. And now we're going to create those level of scripture, those level of products. And as we're doing that, again, we're repurposing the scriptures that we already had. So that's not work I have to do. Maybe I change the font style. Maybe I change some of the colors. Maybe instead of having it black ink, I make some of them white ink, but the work has already been done. Or some of the work has already been done. So again, that makes you more efficient, and that makes you utilize that 30 minutes more efficiently. Then as I move out of month 4 and month 5 of products, now I've got enough content where I can focus in month 6 and potentially month 7 on this low content book, while the other things that I already put out into the universe are automatically getting fulfilled, being purchased, whatever. So I hope that you see that vision of how you can turn this into something that becomes a business and a business process that you're capable of sustaining long-term, bigger picture, versus something that you're frustrated with. So with that, I ran over my time. I hope this was helpful. I hope you got value out of today's class. I really do. I'm passionate about schedules. I believe they change everybody's life. I promise you, it changes everything. So do you have any questions that I can answer?
I don't.
All right. Okay, well, I will see you all later. I'm going to go fix pizzas with my son, and then I got to get back online and do a live. So you all have a blessed one. I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, good night, Nicole.
Good night.
It's too late.